All right, current prophetic events number 16, 144,000, part 2 this evening. In part 1, we discovered the timing of the 144,000. Judgment takes place. That's when in heaven they are sealed, or the wicked are marked. That's when that takes place in heaven. And then there's the last invitation. That's the everlasting gospel. The 144,000 obey, and they go out and they spread the gospel. That proclamation is what separates the world into those final two camps. It's really what reveals the separation, because the judgment has been closed or finished, but it's what reveals to the world around us who's on what side. Then there's a waiting period. That's when the persecution takes place, the final tribulation, and then the end will come. So the 144,000, the timing of them is right at the very end, with a very important job to do right at the last thrust. Okay, but we want to get into whether or not that number in the group is literal or symbolic. So we're going to dive into that this evening. But first, our current news event. This is a silly place to find current news, but it really does reflect upon the culture and the society of our world, or at least our nation. So bear with me for a moment. But The Bachelor, a TV show on television, couldn't even tell you the newest couple's name. I've never seen the show in all the years it's gone on. However, the newest couple announced back at the beginning of April that they were having a baby. Later that day, or maybe the next day, they announced that it was an April Fool's joke. Immediately, people started harassing them. Don't you know, so many women can't have children. How dare you make a joke about having a baby? Man, they got a lot of abuse from people. People were really ranting and raving at them on Twitter, and the couple had to apologize for causing agony. And that's silly. First of all, it's an April Fool's joke. Second of all, they caused agony? They're not the cause of agony. They made a joke about themselves. But anyway. But it made me think of a recent caramel apple joke that I saw, where you hand people, caramel apple, and they bite into it, and it's actually an onion inside. Made me wonder, should that not be done either? Because people with diabetes might feel bad for not being allowed to have caramel. Now listen, I understand people will be upset over jokes. I understand people will be upset over pranks. You can't change those people, and that's just maybe their personality. But the world loves to jump on people, to judge people, to throw the first stone. That's what social media has opened up, hasn't it? When you can hide behind a monitor and you can blast away at people and call them names and make threats and all kinds of stuff and judge them. You can do that from the privacy of your own home, in your bedroom, wherever you are, the whole bit. People love to judge in the world in which we live. People judge with their own experience, with their own wisdom, their own opinions. All those things are lacking. Listen, it's not just it would be the same if I was the one judging. We are not perfect people to make lasting judgments like that on people or on anybody, right? We don't have that ability. We don't always have all the facts. As we've noticed, the heavenly judgment's going to take place. And those remaining loyal to God are called the 144,000 in Revelation 7. Thankfully, though, that judgment is left in better hands than you, me, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. It's left in the hands of our God. Notice what 2 Timothy chapter 4 says. 2 Timothy chapter 4. Second Timothy chapter 4, verse 8. I'm in 1 Timothy. It's been a long day. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 8. Says here, finally, there's laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give to me on that day, and not to me only, but also to all who love His appearing. Amazing. Jesus our righteous judge. I hope I judge things righteously, but not with His righteousness. The world certainly doesn't judge with any righteousness at times. Jesus, His righteousness, His character, His glory, His love. Remember, it's the knowledge of that righteousness, of that character, of that glory that's given to the whole world. It's with that righteousness that Jesus judges the world. We are called, though, to be Christ-like. And so if Jesus judges righteously, then we as Christians should also judge situations. At times we have to judge character, especially if we're going to marry somebody, start a business with somebody. There are times when we are to judge someone's character, and we have to be righteous as well. Notice what Leviticus, back at the beginning of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus 19 tells us something about how we are to judge. Leviticus 19 and verse 15. 19 verse 15 says this: "You shall do no injustice in judgment. You shall not be partial to the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty. In righteousness you shall judge your neighbor." Never to do an injustice in judgment. Never to be unfair. Never to be partial towards the poor. Now, we are to care for the poor. That's not what it's saying. But in judgment, we shouldn't say, "Oh, well, that person just doesn't understand, doesn't know, doesn't have this person, or this person is wealthy and rich and high and mighty and authority. We should throw them a bone and help them out a little bit." We should be righteous in our judgments. Certainly a character point of the 144,000 is they're proclaiming the gospel to the world. They're never to make the decision, well, that nation gets the gospel, but that one doesn't because it's an awful nation. Or that person gets it, but not this person. We might as well not even waste our time. Not to be unfair or partial like that in any way. We're supposed to spread the gospel. Let Jesus work things out. Let people decide for themselves. Our job is to proclaim the gospel and judge every nation, tribe, tongue, and people worthy of hearing the knowledge of God. So let's catch up with the 144,000. Let's notice Revelation chapter 7. Now we read verse 4 last time. Let's go ahead and read it again real quick as a review here. Revelation chapter 7 says this about the 144,000 in verse 4. "And I heard the number of those who were sealed. 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel were sealed." Now, we have to understand this. Remember, just like last time when we read that word "very" on the very same day, Noah and his family entered the ark. Sometimes the Bible throws these little words in, but they're strong, they're important, they're, never, forever, always, right? These words are kind of tossed in. All, some, many, none. They're really important to understand what's going on. It could easily, John, as he wrote this, Jesus, as he inspired John, easily could have just said the tribes of Israel, right? The children of Israel. But it doesn't just say the tribes. Now, the tribes represents every one of the tribes, right? The tribes. The city of Bishop includes everyone in the city of Bishop, right? But if I said all in the city of Bishop, I'm really I'm emphasizing that it's everyone. All the children, or all of the tribe of the children of Israel were sealed. Special notice to the word all. Here's why. Let's notice verses 5 through 8. Now, I don't know how well you know the tribes of Israel. So if you don't know them, I'll clue you in here. But if you know the 12 tribes, I want you to catch who's missing. 5 through 8. Of the tribe of Judah, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Reuben, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Gad, 12,000 were sealed. Verse 6, of the tribe of Asher, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Naphtali, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Manasseh, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Simeon, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Levi, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Issachar, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Zebulun, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Joseph, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Benjamin, 12,000 were sealed. Interesting. It says, in particular emphasis, all the tribes of the children of Israel. This is important for two reasons. Number one, all of the tribes. Doesn't say all of the children, all of the Israelites, because maybe some decide not to, right? All is not the emphasis on children or on Israel. All is an emphasis to the word tribe. All of the tribes of the children of Israel. Then we read the 12 tribes listed, and did you catch? Those aren't the 12 tribes of Israel. There's some difference to them. There's 2 tribes that have been deleted. So is that all the tribes? It's not all the tribes. 2 have been taken out and been replaced. So if we take this literally, all the tribes of the children of Israel, literally, okay, well it says tribes of the children of Israel. It can only be Jewish people, Hebrew people, people with Hebrew blood. Only them, only they can be, not Christians, they're not 144,000, no one else. If we take it literal, then the Bible's made a mistake. If the Bible's made a mistake, that's a big issue for Christians. Can't be taken literally, because it's not all the tribes of the children of Israel. Who's missing? Dan and Ephraim. Ephraim. Depending if you say it in the Hebrew or the English. Those 2 tribes have been deleted. Interesting. Why? Okay. Well, let's notice who the tribe of Dan was. The tribe of Dan was largely a wicked tribe in Israel. They adopted paganism. They adopted idolatry. They were known as brutal warriors. Now, as Jacob was nearing his death, he prophesied / blessed all of his sons. I want you to catch what he says about Dan. It's supposed to be a blessing. Notice what it says. Genesis chapter 49. Genesis chapter 49, verses 16 and 17. Jacob, on his deathbed, nearing his deathbed, it says this to his son Dan, verse 16, then 17. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Okay, it's off to a nice start. He's the judge. Interesting that we've got another connection to judgment, right? Okay. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. He's going to be one of the tribes of Israel. Now, verse 17. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, a viper by the path, that bites the horse's heels, so that its rider shall fall backward. Verse 18. I have waited for your salvation, O Lord. This blessing or this prophecy, this promise of Dan and his tribe, it's not very nice. It's not nice at all. Remember what serpents mean in the Bible? A work of Satan, right? You're going to be a serpent biting and hurting. You're going to be sneaky along the path. You're going to cause the riders to fall. And then he says, I have waited for your salvation, O Lord. He's talking to Dan. Then he suddenly calls out to God about salvation. And it doesn't seem that Dan has accepted salvation, that Dan has accepted God. Because he's saying, I have waited for your salvation. It's like his last prayer. Oh, Dan, you're what gives me gray hairs. You're who keeps me up at night. Some of us may have understand that because we have a child like that. The one that stresses us out, or the one, we love all of our kids. That's not a question. We love all of our kids, but then there's the kid that's just, okay, I can deal with that person today. I've got to get that kid focused. I've got that kid, and maybe they're kids, teenagers, maybe they're in their 20s, maybe they're in their 50s now, depending on how old your kids are. And it's like, oh, when will they learn? It's like every house seems to have at least one of those kinds of kids in them, right? That's Dan. Jacob is still waiting for him to accept the salvation of God. Dan's people are wicked. Openly wicked. Always wicked. There's a few remnant who come out. There's a few Danites who do good things. But even them, they have this up and down lifestyle. Probably the most notable is Samson, the judge, who, as we all know, Samson and Delilah, he's got this up and down. He'll slay a bunch of Philistines, and then he's marrying a Philistine. And then he, loses that Philistine woman, and he goes off and kills some more Philistines and is honorable and judging, and then he hooks up with Delilah. Up and down Samson's lifestyle, right? Up and down. That's the story of the Danites. Tribe is wickedly open. They're wicked. They're openly wicked, I'm trying to say. This was the promise. It all starts off at the very beginning. His mom is Bilhah, who is not Jacob's wife. Jacob's first wife was Rachel. And Rachel's not having kids. It's just her body's not working. She's not conceiving. Leah's having kid after kid after kid. Rachel feels awful and horrible and terrible. Her self-esteem is found in the wrong thing. She's not finding her value in God's eyes. She's finding her value in what she can do. Or she's actually finding her value in what she can't do, right? Her failures. A lot of us are like that today. Rachel then sends Bilhah, her handmaiden, her employee, over to Jacob and says, well, why don't you sleep with him and make a baby for me? I'll claim the child as my own. And Rachel feels that God has judged her righteous. Notice Genesis chapter 30, verse 1. Genesis chapter 30, verse 1. So as we turn there, we already noticed that Dan's life gets off on the wrong foot, right? He's conceived in sin. Now let's notice. Verse 1, now when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said to Jacob, give me children or else I die. Then verse 6. Then Rachel said, this is after Dan is born, then Rachel said, God has judged my case. He has also heard my voice and given me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan. It's interesting. Remember Jacob says, you will judge your people, right? And his name means, the name Dan literally means judged. It's talking about God's judgment. God has judged me worthy. God has given me a son. Let's be honest here. She's not here to defend herself, so we'll be nice. Did God give her a son? I guess in the big picture that God forms everyone in the womb, but whose idea was it for Jacob to sleep with Bilhah? It was Rachel's. Rachel found her own way to her own salvation or value. It was salvation by works, really. Right? She's finding her value by works. She's finding her value in the fact that she can't have kids. And she looks at her fellows and she says to Jacob, give me children or I'm going to die. She's suicidal. She doesn't want to live anymore. She hurts. She's in pain. And I don't understand that pain, and so I don't want to judge that pain. And I'm sure she was hurting. I'm sure it's a tough time, especially in that culture. It's painful for her. But then she goes about it the wrong way and then gives the glory to God for the sin. God has given me, yea, God has judged me worthy. No. God closed your womb. God did not yet. Joseph and Benjamin, by the way, were her children, naturally born children. God had not yet judged her worthy. She found her own way to it. God did not give her a son. Bilhah had a son, and he was a son born by sin. This judgment gets off on the wrong foot and puts the tribe in danger from the very, very beginning. Birthed in sin, lives in sin, the tribe of sin. It is a wicked tribe. Wicked tribe. Value by works, salvation by works. Just it's. I guess this might be too much to describe, but it's evolution. Survival of the fittest. She's finding her value in that she survived, that she did it. She found a way around God's plan, right? I found a way, and then she says that it's because of God. It's a wicked, wicked tribe. That's who this represents. This is why they're not included in the tribes of the children of Israel in Revelation 7. Now, it wasn't just Dan. It was Ephraim too. Now let's notice Genesis 48. Genesis chapter 48. Now, of course, 49 was where Jacob was blessing the children, his own children, his sons. And they all get a blessing. But in chapter 48, he actually calls forward Joseph's sons. And Joseph, by the way, the reason how 12 works, now Joseph has 2 sons, and they're going to receive, they're going to become part of the tribes of Israel. So there's 12 sons, and that's 14. Joseph is not given one tribe, it's split between the 2. And then the Levites were not given land or property because they were going to be the priests and they were going to work all over the place. So they didn't have an inheritance here because they were priests. Their inheritance was in heaven. Okay? So those 2 don't have land. They're not part of the tribes of Israel. And here, the 2 sons of Joseph are chosen to be part of that 12. Because the number 12 is really important. So Jacob wanted to keep it number 12. And that's a story for another day. But his sons were Manasseh and Ephraim. Manasseh's the oldest. Ephraim's the youngest. Okay? Now, notice what takes place here in the story. Verse 17. Genesis 48, verse 17. Now, when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand, which is the hand of promise, the hand of power, his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, so he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. The right hand was supposed to be on the oldest head, Manasseh. Okay? And so Joseph wants to make sure, because Jacob is going blind here, he's old, and so he's thinking, oh, my crazy dad, he doesn't understand what's going on, so he's going to try to switch them around. But notice, verse 18, and Joseph said to his father, not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But the father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But, that's Manasseh, yeah, he's going to do great. But, truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his descendants shall become a multitude of nations. Cool. Jacob likes Ephraim. Very different crowd now than Dan, right? Very different promise here. Dan, you're a serpent. You need salvation. Ephraim, you're going to do great, dude. You're awesome. You're going to become huge. You're awesome. So much so that, yeah, your older brother's going to do good, but I'm going to put my right hand on you because, ding, I'm putting my money on you. Right? He's gambling on Ephraim. Ephraim, you're going to do great and one of the wonderful things. You're destined to be great. But the tribe of Ephraim starts off nice, does great things, but they eventually fall away. They become the leader of the northern kingdom of Israel. And the northern kingdom of Israel is known when they split between Israel and Judah. Israel is wicked, 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 wicked. Very wicked tribe. kingdom, very wicked kingdom. They practice paganism and all kinds of awful, horrible, disgusting things that we won't get into this evening. Ephraim represents those who fall away. Go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 before we close. We're almost done, but 2 Thessalonians in the New Testament, notice Paul describes those who fall away. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and we are going to read at verse 3. Speaking of the end times, speaking of the world in which we live in today, we're going to notice verse 3 and 4. It says, "Let no one deceive you by any means, for that day," the second coming, according to verse 1, "for that day, the second coming, will not come unless the falling away comes first. The man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." So here we have a proclamation by Paul, a prophecy by Paul, that in the last days that the Antichrist will come first, then Christ. Not the other way around, as a lot of people teach, that the Christ comes, people are secretly raptured, then the Antichrist. He's very clear. Antichrist, the falling away first, then the day of Christ. And this time of the Antichrist, it's about this group who falls away. Falls away, the son of perdition. It's Ephraim. Dan, openly wicked. Ephraim, those who fall away. And Revelation 7 contrasts them to who? The 144,000. Now, in case someone sees that as a math symbol, we'll put it this way. This way is greater. 144,000 is contrasted to this group. The group who are openly wicked and the group who falls away and becomes wicked. This is the tribes of the children of Israel. It's not all of them. 2 are not included. The wicked, those who have fallen away. So who's left in the world? This is those who love Jesus. These are those who love Antichrist. Those who are openly wicked. And those who once followed Christ but fell away. You see, here in Revelation chapter 7 is a declaration about the whole entire world. Everyone who's left at the end. This is all. Now, those who fall away are just simply wicked, right? They become wicked. This is one group. This is one group. 2 camps. Just like all along, we've noticed time and time again, over and over and over, 2 camps. Notice a description that's very important for us to understand in Revelation chapter 14, and then we'll wrap up and close. Notice how it describes the 144,000. Revelation 14 verse 4. I told you last time that chapter 7 and chapter 14 give us descriptions of the 144,000. Let's catch what 14 says. Verse 4, these, 144,000, these are the ones who were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These were redeemed from among men, being first fruits to God and to the Lamb. This group, openly wicked, does not follow the Lamb. Ephraim once followed the Lamb, fell away, no longer follows the Lamb. This side follows the Lamb wherever he goes. 2 camps. We take 144,000 group. We haven't talked about the number specifically yet, but the group itself. Who is this group? If we take it literally, the Bible makes a big mistake because it's not all the tribes of the children of Israel. It says all so that we go and study. Here, hold on, and we look at the 12. Wait, it's missing 2. And then we discover the symbolism in it. If this group's a symbol, That group's a symbol. Golden thread of prophecy. This side is symbolic of the wicked. Those who are always wicked, openly wicked, those who fall away. And the other camp, those who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. So, is the group symbolic or literal? Pretty clear. We're going to continue to get into this in next week's lesson in number 17. So far, it seems very clear to be symbolic group of people who literally exist and literally do a good work, an amazing work, the most important work in the last days. But who they are, their identification, seems symbolic, not about the tribes or DNA or genealogy, but rather this, right here. This is what it's all about. Those who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. Let's pray. Father, I pray for the strength for us here this evening, those listening online. I pray, Lord, for the strength, the audacity, the special attention, that you'll help us to follow the Lamb wherever he goes. Help us focus on that, Lord. Help us to do it. I want to follow the Lamb. We love you because you first loved us. Help us, Lord, show it in our daily decisions. In Jesus' name, amen.